Hey guys, Dave with First Place Auto Parts today, and today in this video we're going to talk about everything exhaust. Nothing sounds sweeter than a V8 engine blowing through a performance exhaust system, and maybe you just want to increase the sound of your vehicle. Or maybe you've added performance to your engine and you need to get that exhaust out a little bit better than what the stock exhaust system can currently do. Either way, the exhaust is complicated and it's made up of a lot of individual components. There's a lot of pros and cons of these things, and in today's video we're going to take a look at all those things, so stay tuned. Hey guys, if you like today's video, please consider subscribing to the First Place Auto Parts YouTube channel. We're going to continually be adding new videos every week where we show you how to put new parts on, we take a look at the latest parts that are available, and we go to some pretty cool car guy stuff I'm pretty sure you're going to want to see. When you look at the exhaust system underneath your car, it may appear to be one continuous piece, but the reality is it's made up of a lot of different components. Everything from taking the exhaust from the cylinder head to getting it out of the tailpipe is made up of a lot of different items that make up a complete exhaust system, and changing just one of those items may not get the effect that you're looking for. And the good news is that the manufacturers such as Pipes and Flowmaster have made choosing an exhaust system as a kit a lot easier than it used to be. You still have to understand what components you're getting with the kit. Things like headers. Are you getting long tube or are you getting shorty headers? The diameter of the exhaust pipe, and what kind of a crossover pipe comes with the kit. Is it an X or a Y pipe? And then finally, the muffler type. All these things have an effect on horsepower, but also the sound the exhaust will produce. And when we talk about exhaust systems, we gotta talk about right where all the power is really made, and that's right at the cylinder head, in either a form of an exhaust manifold, if it's OEM, or a set of headers. Now, the OEM manufacturers, they have to meet a lot of criteria, not only in sound, but also reliability. Horsepower, it falls somewhere down the list in things that they really want to achieve. They've gotten a lot better with exhaust manifolds. The old ones, they were made out of cast iron and were quite honestly pretty crude. The modern exhaust manifolds, a lot of them are tubular, but the fact remains that they still have very tight bends, they're fairly small in diameter, and also they restrict flow. As RPMs go up, the exhaust flow goes down with stock exhaust manifolds. Enter exhaust headers. Now, exhaust headers come in a lot of different designs and also materials that they're made of. And when most people think of performance headers, they think of the long tube headers like the ones made by Hooker Header that have the tuned length and the long collectors on the end of them. These type of headers are perfect for increasing the performance of your vehicle because not only do they flow very well, but they can be tuned by the manufacturer by the length of the collector, which has a lot to do with the RPMs at which power and torque are made. The other type of header is what are called shorty or block hugger headers, and really these headers look like performance headers, but the reality is they're only slightly better than the OEM cast manifolds because they don't have that tuned length. Really, when they're used is when space limitations, such as when you put a 32 Ford and you put a small block Chevrolet in it, the distance between the block and the side of the frame rail is very tight, so you need a header that bends in very close to the engine block, hence the name block hugger, and it fits well. They're not that great for performance, but if you have an application where the space is tight, they may be your only option. Exhaust headers can be some of the most involved when it comes to the replacement time, the actual difficulty goes. Replacing a set of headers can be anything from a drop-in to something that requires you to lift the engine up to make space to get the headers in, but nothing will increase performance quite like a set of long tube headers. As a matter of fact, depending on how restrictive the stock exhaust manifolds are, you can realize gains of 35 up to 50 horsepower with a set of long tube headers installed on the right application. And when it comes to headers, you have some options. And these are options you're going to want to consider before you go ahead and order a set of headers, because quite honestly, headers aren't typically very cheap. Some of the things that you're going to have to decide are, and the first one is going to be how big are the tubes of the headers. Please resist the urge to go to the bottom of the page in the catalog and pick the biggest set of tubes you can get, because what happens is you lose that scavenging effect that is so critical with a set of headers. And what scavenging is literally the headers help pull the exhaust out of the exhaust port, and what happens when you have too big of a tube is the exhaust gets lazy and it basically tends to back up and it doesn't flow as quickly. So resist the urge to go to the bottom of the page, get the biggest set of tube headers you can get, and you'll be happier with the purchase. The other thing is, are you getting bare Steel headers, are you getting them coated? Are they going to be painted? Or are you going to get them made out of stainless steel? Look, stainless steel is a little more, well actually it's a lot more expensive, but man, it pays dividends, especially in vehicles that are hard to get these things in and out of, that you never have to touch them again for the most part. They don't rust, they stay good looking for a long time. It's the way to go if you can afford it. The next step would be the coated headers, the high temperature coatings. Look, these things are very durable and typically they'll last a long time as well. Now, what they won't stand up to is if you're breaking a camshaft in, where you have to run the RPMs, an old flat tappet cam, where you have to run the RPMs at a high RPM for 15 to 20 minutes to break that cam in. If you use coated headers, you will start to burn off some of that coating right where it comes out of the exhaust head and makes it bend. After that, you get into the painted headers. And all I can tell you about painted headers is they're a lot of work. The paint burns off almost instantly, and you'll continually be painting them, and they'll rust really quickly if you don't. So you may be tempted not to spend a lot of money on your headers and go with the coated or the uncoated or the painted header. But all I can tell you is this is money that you will spend now that you'll be grateful you spent later by going with the best set of headers you can get. You have a lot of options when it comes to headers. Either talk to your engine builder about the tubing diameter size that you need for your headers, or talk to some people that have used them with your application to get a better idea of what you need for your car. And after the headers, the exhaust travels down through the exhaust pipes themselves. And the one thing we're talking about in this video today specifically are cat-back exhaust systems. Look, the catalytic converters themselves has a lot to do with emissions, which means the EPA. There's a lot of legalities involved with either touching those things or removing them. There are some companies that make some off-road use only type replacements, but because that's a legal subject that I don't even want to get involved in, we're going to talk about the cat-back systems, and that starts with the exhaust pipes and the crossovers. First of all, with the exhaust pipes themselves, what size diameter pipe you choose, but also what it's made out of are some options, and which one's the best one for your application. Modern performance exhaust kits like those made by Holley, Pipes, and Flowmaster are all designed to be used as a true dual exhaust system. And the horsepower that your car makes, the cubic inch size of your motor, and a couple of other factors will determine the size and the diameter of the exhaust pipe that your kit will use. A typical 300 to 350 cubic inch engine making up to 350 horsepower is best served by 2 1/4 to 2.5 inch pipes and mufflers. A 350 plus cubic inch engine up to 550 horsepower are generally good with 2.5 to 3 inch exhaust pipes and mufflers. Large 3-inch diameter pipes on a vehicle that doesn't need it, it makes the exhaust get lazy as it travels through the exhaust system. What it does is it destroys that scavenging effect that is so critical to getting the exhaust out of the cylinder head, and it can actually make the sound rather flat. So don't be tempted to oversize the pipes for your car. Look, just because everybody has 3-inch pipes on their truck running around town doesn't mean it's the right thing for your application. Not every car needs 3-inch diameter exhaust pipes. And another option that you have when choosing your exhaust pipes is the type of crossover that your system comes with. Look, these crossover pipes can have everything to do with where the horsepower is made in the RPM range for your vehicle, but also what kind of sound it has. And the one you choose will dictate a lot about how your car runs and how it sounds. And how an exhaust crossover works is half black magic and half science. When your engine fires, it fires in pulses. It's not, each cylinder isn't firing at the same time. So as it fires and each bank fires separately, what you get is a series of pulses of exhaust that basically are very choppy when they enter into the exhaust system. What a crossover pipe does is essentially it balances out. They used to be called balance pipes, but it balances out that flow. It's kind of a reservoir that helps dampen those pulsations and creates our better flow path to make it out of the exhaust. These things are really critical. Look, we didn't have these things back in the 80s, but the interesting thing is GM believes in them so much. They've been putting them on the Corvette for decades, and all the 5th gen Camaros have had them as well. So there's definitely something to having a crossover pipe. And the two things that crossover pipes affect are power and sound. In regards to sound, the X pipe is going to develop a higher pitch, more of an exotic sound, where the H pipe creates a deeper, more traditional muscle car sound. And because of the venturi effect that an X pipe creates over an H pipe, it's possible for an X pipe to actually create more horsepower than what an H pipe will do as well. And the final component of any high-performance exhaust system is going to be the muffler itself. Look, I'm a child of the 80s. I started driving in the early 80s, and for us it was pretty simple. You cut the muffler off, you put a glass pack on it, and you called it done. Nowadays, we are blessed with a lot of different options, not only in design, but the makeup or what the product is made out of. And mufflers have everything to do with not only how loud a vehicle is, but also the quality of that sound. And how a muffler works is pretty simple. When that big bang takes place inside your engine and those exhaust pulses head towards the muffler, they are high pressure waves. It's the muffler's job to take those waves, reduce the sound, but not choke off performance of the vehicle. And performance mufflers can differ greatly, not only in their size and their shape, but also how they're made. Some mufflers use welded diverter plates inside to help cancel out sound waves. Other mufflers use a series of perforated S-tubes inside that are wrapped with fiberglass or sound-absorbing material to muffle the sound. But either way, a muffler's job is to reduce the sound. How they go about it can be very different. In almost all of your performance exhaust kits are going to have one of three types of mufflers. It's either going to be a diverter plate muffler, a turbo muffler, or a straight through muffler. We used to call those glass packs. Chambered mufflers are a popular choice for hot rods and street machines, and their use of inner welded diverter plates that are placed so that the exhaust passes through the muffler and the sound waves created by the exhaust reflect and bounce off each other. As this takes place, the sound waves begin to cancel each other out, which causes a reduction in the overall noise that exits the muffler. The more chambers are placed, the quieter the muffler, but also the more restrictive it becomes. Turbo-style mufflers are perhaps the most common type of muffler and typically have an S-shaped perforated tube that winds the exhaust through the muffler. The inner part of the muffler is filled with a sound-absorbing material, and as the exhaust leaks through the perforation in the tube, the material absorbs the sound. And the final type of muffler that you'll find available in a lot of the performance exhaust kits is a straight-through muffler, like the one I have here. Now look, these are traditionally called glass packs, and they have a perforated tube that passes straight through this muffler. It is wrapped with sound-absorbing material, but the reality is the amount of sound that it reduces is very little. The sound that does come out of these, quite honestly, is a little harsh. It isn't very refined, but if you have issues with space, if you've got a tight chassis or you need to run a muffler somewhere underneath a car that has a lot of suspension work, especially when you get in the 4-link rear ends, sometimes the glass pack's your only option. They come in a lot of different lengths and sizes. This is a header mount glass pack that I use when I break in camshafts, but I've seen them as short as 1.5 to 2 feet long. Again, they don't do much, but legally you will have a muffler if you use one of these things. And like the exhaust pipes themselves, options when it comes to the material that the mufflers are made out of are similar. You can get steel, painted steel in the case of a lot of the Flowmaster mufflers. You can get aluminized steel, which is what a lot of your turbo mufflers have, or you can get performance exhaust mufflers in stainless steel. Look, the condensation that builds up in a muffler carrying hot exhausts from the exhaust manifold or header all the way to the tailpipe, the exhaust has a chance to cool down a lot. And when it hits the mufflers, especially when they're in the back of the car, it creates a lot of condensation, which can lead to rust. It's not uncommon to have traditional steel mufflers, not aluminized, but steel mufflers, rust out in a couple of years, especially up north. So when it comes to options, again, it's one of those things where you can pay more up front and get a better finished product that'll not only last a long time, but look, stainless steel underneath the car, when it comes to the muffler, the cans, they can be polished, they look beautiful, and they look beautiful for a long time. So there's a lot of options when it comes to picking and choosing the components, not only the type of components, but what they're made out of in regards to not only perform, but the longevity and the looks as well. Enthusiasts today have it so much easier than we did back in the earlier days of trying to pick out a performance exhaust. Back in the day, we used to piece these things together with a hacksaw and flexible pipe. Today, you can order a kit that's specifically made not only for the performance of your vehicle, but for the chassis as well. Look, you can install most of these kits with average mechanical skills in your driveway on a Saturday afternoon. You can go from being mild to wild depending on what you put on your car, what you choose. And companies like Pipes, Flowmaster, and Holley, guys, they make it simple. I'm going to go ahead and include links to all the various brands that we've talked about in this video today in regards to the exhaust system kits that First Place Auto Parts offers. You might find something that you want to put on your car, and First Place Auto Parts makes that easy. Guys, I appreciate you watching this video. Hopefully it was informative for you. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. But until next time, keep the hammer down and keep it between the guardrails.